This is Health Matters, a podcast from Mayo Clinic where we discuss the latest medical advice, news, and research to help you live a happier and healthier life. My name is Kristen Meinzer. I'm a writer and journalist, and this episode we are talking about arts and medicine. Taking care of someone isn't just about their vital signs, it's about the intangibles of mind, body, and spirit too. And few things seem to nurture those the way art does, whether that art is visual, musical, or written. Mayo Clinic, across all its branches, understands that medical care goes beyond the biology and created its Humanities in Medicine program to help enrich the lives of patients, visitors, and staff. In this episode, we're talking to two people very familiar with one of these programs, Arts at the Bedside. First, we're going to talk with Robin Anderson, an artist who provides the space for patients to express themselves through drawing, painting, and even clay. In the second half, we'll be talking to a patient who ended up reshaping her life with skills she learned from that program. But first, Robin Anderson, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We are so excited to talk with you about your exciting and healing work. You are an artist at the bedside at the Mayo Clinic Dolores Jean Lavin's Center for Humanities in Medicine. So, first and foremost, what kind of art do you make, and how did you come to be involved with the Humanities in Medicine program at Mayo Clinic?
I've been doing art since I can remember. And so I've done pretty much anything you can imagine, multimedia, paintings that incorporate a lot of different collage, watercolor, all that. And most recently, I've really been attracted to making things out of things I find in nature, like sticks and twigs and shells and rocks. And I do that a lot because I spend a lot of time out in nature.
Nature is healing in a lot of ways. Spending time outside in something that's bigger than all of us, something we have no control over, something that has its own seasons and so on. So
Yes.
I can see the inspiration there, especially with the kind of work you do. So let's talk a little bit more about that. Had you done this kind of work before, merging art and healing?
Yes, I've done a lot of it. As a licensed professional counselor in Colorado, I did art as therapy in a private practice setting. I also did a lot of art workshops with disadvantaged youth, a yearly art workshop with cancer survivors at the Cancer Center in Colorado Springs. And then for a couple of years, I went to over 30 different facilities, assisted living, skilled nursing, and memory care units, and did art therapy with people in those facilities.
And what exactly is the Arts at the Bedside program?
It is a program designed to help people to engage in something meaningful while they are in the hospital that can help them to be distracted from all the uncertainties and all the things that go on in a hospital room that can be very nerve-wracking. And when I come in and when anyone comes in and helps them with this art, they are able to sort of remove themselves, I guess you could say, from the situation for a little while. And so it's to help reduce stress, bring a little bit of joy. So it's really designed to help promote healing the mind and the spirit and emotionally as well, not just the physical.
Yeah. What kinds of patients get added to your list? Who are these candidates who you end up seeing?
Oftentimes, they are people who have been hospitalized for long periods of time, transplant patients. We do have an antepartum unit where there are mothers waiting. They are on bed rest. But it's not just people there long term. It could be someone who's hospitalized for a few days to a week, and maybe they're more anxious. Cancer patients, too, especially when they are coming and going. So every time they come back, they get another visit to help them manage through that.
And let's talk about specifically what happens. What are you doing in a typical visit?
So once I introduce myself, I just say I have a whole bunch of art supplies and fun art projects to do, and it's all free. And is that something that you might be interested in? And most of the time, people will say yes, even though they might be a little hesitant and say, oh, I don't have a creative bone in my body. And so we talk a little bit about what creativity is. And so people then can realize that creativity can be, how did you decide to fix your hair that day? Or who does
Mm.
all the decorating in your home? Or who does the cooking? And do you ever, change the recipe a little bit? So anyway, I help them to realize that, yes, they are creative and they're like, oh, okay. And then once I show them the projects, everything that I have is designed for someone who tells me I haven't picked up a crayon since I was 5, all the way to a professional artist. And so I show them the basics and I say, you can make this whatever you want. And sometimes our visits are a conversation. And that's a really important part of what I do. I'm not just handing over supplies and sitting in the quiet,
Mhm.
while they do their work. We're talking and they're telling me about art that they've done before or art that they appreciate. And sometimes people are picking up their phone and showing me pictures of things that they've done at home. Or maybe they're even talking about what their husband, their brother, or son has done. But it's all about the creative aspects of life.
Yeah. Now, what you're doing in conversation, is that part of your training in motivational interviewing? I understand that's something that you're trained in.
Yes.
And if so, can you tell us what motivational interviewing is?
Yeah, it's helping the person that you're with to know that you understand them and that you hear them. So there's a lot of reflective listening, active listening, open-ended questions. And so the motivation part is really in this setting is to help them to realize that they're a creative person. Beyond that, I'm not motivating them in any other way, like you might be if you're doing therapy and they're trying to work through addiction or, those kinds of things. This is different. But the same kind of conversation takes place and is very helpful so that the person knows they're understood. I heard what they said, and that
Mm.
they are in total control of what happens next.
Oh, the total control thing, that makes so much sense because so much is out of our control when we're chronically ill or when we're
Oh,
in the
yeah.
hospital. We can't control when someone's coming into our room. We can't control when food is being brought to us. So, a lot of what you're doing, it sounds like, is giving people a sense of self, a sense that things aren't completely out of their hands.
Absolutely. Yes, that is right on. And I can see how they transform, through the conversation while they are telling me about what they enjoy, what they like to do, what they want to do. And I can see it on their face, the transition from being skeptical to this is really fun.
And what kind of fun things are you working on with your patients?
We do a lot of pretty much anything you can imagine, a lot of painting with watercolor. I have a lot of different greeting card ideas. So I have a lot of blank greeting cards and some very creative ways to create a card because a lot of times people are missing birthdays and graduations
Ah.
and they want to send a thank you. And that's the other thing that people really like doing is making things for someone else. Origami boxes, I happen to have one sitting here right now, where it's just an origami box, but it's called a strong box because what we put inside of it are strips of paper, and on the strips of paper are positive statements that when they're having a rough day, they can pull it out, and it might be just a whole bunch of strips of things that they're grateful for, or
Hmm.
I've had people wanna write messages to their children. We do work with palliative care and hospice patients as well, and so it might be messages to their family.
Wow. That sense of connection when you're frequently alone in a room must mean so much just to feel like there's still connection out there. There are still people that I not only love and that are out there, but maybe I can do something for them. I can make their day a little bit better by sending them this letter, making this card or this painting and sending it to them. So, also a sense of purpose, it sounds like you're giving your patients.
Very much so, yes. I'm glad you said that because I'm thinking of a patient now who, with the strong box, she was so taken with making these boxes that she wanted a whole bunch of supplies to be able to make a box for each one of her doctors, each one of the nurses. And so I was constantly helping her to do that. And she was so proud of the fact that they were all so grateful to have it. So, yeah, purpose.
Can you speak to any data about the connection between arts and healing?
There is a wealth of data out there. NOAA, the National Organization for Arts and Healthcare, has a lot of data out there. In 2018, our team put together a small study about the Arts at the Bedside program here at Mayo. And it shows that it reduces stress, it can help relieve pain and provide spiritual support, emotional support. So, yeah, there's a lot of data out there, and also data that shows that the care team members also benefit from this. Have a whole collection of emails from staff who said, "Thank you so much for visiting with so and so because his mood increased tremendously and he was so much more cooperative with,
Mm.
receiving his care." And I think that that is really helpful for staff. It helps with burnout with them. And they see us as really part of the care team. When we show up, we are able to do things with the patient and for the patient that they don't have time to do, that they
Mhm.
truly appreciate. And, the staff, they all smile when I come and, "Are you going to see so and so?" Because they're very excited about having this service for their patients.
Is there any kind of typical journey you see your patients go through when working with you over a long period of time?
I don't know if anything is typical. I guess I could tell you the story about a patient I've been working with on the long-term stay unit where I do an art workshop weekly. And a woman I had invited to this group several times and was like, "No, no." And then one day she said yes. And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And the reason that she had been saying no is because she has really bad tremors in her hands. And
Mm.
she was embarrassed about, what she would do or could do or couldn't do, because of that. And I was able to help her to see that, no, there are lots of things you can do, even though you have this tremor in your hand. So she's been coming every single week. And the thing that really transformed for her this last time was she did an abstract painting, and one of the exercises or projects, I guess you could say, is to create an abstract painting, and then you outline all the different shapes of the paint that are on the page. And I said, "What if your signature art is your shaky outline around all these edges?" And so she started doing it, and the other participants were like, "Wow, that's really cool. That looks so cool." And so when she was finished, she was actually very proud of what she had done,
Mm.
and that tremors actually created this art.
To go from being embarrassed about something to feeling like you created something beautiful that your fellow patients are applauding, that's a real transformation.
Yes, she's very excited about doing art. She is scheduled to go to an assisted living facility, and she plans to share everything she's learned with the activity director there.
Wow. So now she's paying it forward and
Yes,
she's becoming an educator, not just a patient.
exactly.
Oh, that's incredible. And I imagine it's a great reminder that life isn't just about surviving, it's about living, and art and making things with our hands. That's a version of living, not just surviving. Do you have any other examples of patients you've seen go from surviving to thriving?
There's a story not that long ago. A woman, I came into her room, introduced myself, and she was kind of hunched over. And I told her who I was and what I have. And she said, "Oh, well, I'm in so much pain right now. I don't know." And I said, "Oh, "I'm sorry you're in so much pain. Would it be okay if I make something for you?" And
Mm.
she said, "Yeah." So I sat down and I said, "I have this project making a beautiful flower." And she said, "Oh, I love flowers." And I said, "Oh, what's your favorite color?" And it just so happened I had that color. And I start making this flower for her to put in her room. And I said, "So what's your experience with flowers?" And she looked up at me and she said, "Well, I have the most incredible flower garden." And I said, "Really? Tell me about that." She
Mm.
started telling me about her garden. She pulled out her phone. She's showing me photos of her garden while I'm making this flower and going on about this flower and that. And after about 15 minutes, I had finished making the flower and handed it to her. And she was smiling. She goes, "Oh, that reminds me of my pink peonies." I said, "Yeah, I've heard people tell me they look like peonies." And then she said, "Wow." She goes, "My pain is gone."
Wow.
Like, what?
That's incredible. Wow. Doesn't matter whether it's painting versus music versus crafts that you're working on as far as healing and making patients feel better?
Any of it, all of it really makes a difference. We have our creative writer, Ariel, who has worked with many patients, helping them create poetry. And then Alexandra, who's our musician who plays violin, she's awesome and plays so beautifully. And we were in an elevator and someone saw her violin and said, "Oh, do you play violin?" And she said, "Yes." And we told her what we do, what she does, and she goes, "Oh, could you come to my dad's room?" And so we went in, and it turned out that the woman that was in the elevator was a musician, had a keyboard in the room, and Alexandra and the daughter played together. They both knew classical music, and the dad was in tears.
Oh,
So happy.
oh, that's beautiful. That must have been just, I don't even want to say like it must have been great entertainment or a treat. It goes beyond that. That is, in a
Mhm.
way, moving him out of the hospital room into a higher plane in a way, right?
Yeah, and in addition to, saying how beautiful it was, he looked at his daughter and said, in teary, "I'm so proud of you,"
Mm,
which then, of
yeah.
course, brought tears to her. That reminds me too that, family members and visitors are also involved in what we do and are very important because you can imagine that family members are very concerned about their loved ones. And sometimes the patient might be asleep or just out of it in a lot of ways if they're on a lot of medication. And the family member is the one who does the art.
Oh, so it sounds like your work is helping people on so many fronts. It's helping the patients, obviously, but also their friends and family. It's helping the practitioners to have patients who are more cooperative and more at peace. It sounds like what you're doing is changing lives. And I have to say, I'm just so inspired talking to you and hearing about your work today. Thank you so much, Robin.
Thank you, Kristen. It was so wonderful to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity to share all of this.
The Arts at the Bedside program gives people the space to be creative, the time to appreciate beauty, and even the distraction to take their mind off their pain. No matter the form, whether it's music, arts and crafts, or words on the page, patients leave feeling a little lighter after they're given the chance to express themselves or appreciate the talents of others. The Humanities in Medicine program has touched the lives of more than 20,000 patients and family members through its programming, Arts at the Bedside, and workshops. And it contributes to research showing the benefits that come with more arts and humanities in medicine. Up next, we'll hear from just one of the patients who experienced the Arts at the Bedside program, Katie White. Not only did Katie leave Mayo Clinic with a new heart, but she also left with a heart filled with renewed purpose. Katie White, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
We're talking to you today about humanities in medicine and how Mayo's Humanities in Medicine program played a role in your own treatment. So, first off, can you tell us the circumstances of your being in the hospital back in 2022?
So I was on the heart transplant list. I moved into the hospital to wait for my transplant. The reality is I was a 36-year-old woman who was told you may or may not live. I mean, we
Mm-hmm.
don't know what your prognosis is. Like, we're going to try to find you a heart, but we're not sure.
Hmm.
And I moved into the hospital not knowing if I would ever move out.
And you were in the hospital for 3 months while waiting for your heart transplant, and then also for a few weeks after. That's a long time. How were you feeling about the length of that stay? And how did you expect to fill your time? I mean, that's like a third of a year you were there.
Yeah, it is like a third of a year. And honestly, it's a lot shorter time than I actually expected to wait. When I moved into the hospital that day in February, I completely expected to wait at least a year.
Oh,
So I really was mentally preparing for that, but it was still a huge culture shock.
tell us about the vibe in the hospital at the time. This was still relatively early during COVID, too, right?
It was. Yeah, so the vibe was one visitor. Everyone was masked. When I went out in the hallway, I was masked. So it was, very much still kind of in hospital lockdown.
Hmm. How did that feel? Were you lonely? Were you sad?
I was lonely. I mean, I was grappling with the fact that I may or may not come out of this hospital alive,
Hmm.
because there's no guarantees that they're going to find you a donor. There's no guarantees that you're going to survive the surgery. I mean, there's just so many unknowns. So I think I spent a lot of time kind of grappling with that. Luckily, I am very much an introvert, so that I think really saved me. And, the other thing that I did was I really made they have these beautiful hospital rooms for people who live there for long periods of time. So I really made it my own. Like I brought all my own bedding, I brought plants, I brought my own lamp from home. Like just I really made it like my own apartment.
Mm.
Over time, I really figured out how to make a schedule for myself.
And what was in your daily schedule?
So I woke up, I always walked to get coffee. In the morning, I walked down the hallway. I would walk like, I don't know, 1 to 2 miles a day just around the unit. I started to learn Norwegian just to, keep my mind fresh. And then spent a ton of time doing art.
Let's talk about that because it sounds like that was a big part of your life while you were there.
It was a huge part. Shortly after I moved in, the nurses said, "Well, here we have these little art kits to keep you busy." And it was just like very, basic. It would be like a great thing if someone was there for 2 nights at the hospital.
Mhm.
So then I quickly moved through that and they said, "Well, let's put a consult in for Robin to come and visit you." And
Mhm.
Robin came with like her rolling suitcase and she is an artist by training and she just was like, "Okay, well, what are you interested in? I can literally get you any supplies that you really want, that you feel like you'd be interested in." And I was like, "Well, I don't really know what I'm interested in." I mean, we tried origami. That was really fun. She brought out like paints and then she finally brought out polymer clay. And she was like, "Yeah, you can make sculptures with this. You can make jewelry." And that just stuck for me.
That brought you joy in a different way than folding paper or other things.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it just brought me a lot of joy. So, yeah, so Robin would visit me, I believe it was once a week.
And when Robin wasn't with you, were you doing art when she wasn't around, or did you only do it when she was with you?
Oh, yeah, I did it, like, all the time. I mean, once she brought me the polymer clay, I basically went down a rabbit hole and taught myself how to make jewelry out of polymer clay on YouTube. So,
Ah.
I would literally spend hours doing this.
What was it like before you started working with the clay? Do you remember your mental state before versus your mental state after?
I think what working with clay did for me and still does for me is it just kind of calms and centers my mind. It's almost like when people meditate and you can kind of turn
Mm,
off the surrounding
yes.
chatter, especially in a hospital, even with the door closed, like there's always this kind of surrounding chatter. There's
Yeah.
lights and alarms and talking and yelling and blah, blah, blah. And I remember feeling like I could literally look up and it would be 10 p.m.
Mm.
And it's like, "Oh my gosh, I have to go to bed. Like, I gotta get up at, 7:30 tomorrow because I have a full day," and really truly feeling like that. And so I think that is what for me piece was that the art brought, I was able to really turn off that surrounding areas and just focus in.
Tell us about some of the things you were making with the clay.
So I started making earrings, basically. I've always loved fashion and jewelry, and I just looked on YouTube, and there's a ton of basic polymer clay tutorials, and I just started making earrings, and then I would put them on a little tray, and then I gave them to Robin when she would come on Thursdays, and she would bring them home and bake them because it's an
Ah.
oven-baked clay. And then she would bring them back and I would assemble them. So I ordered supplies and I would check in with the front desk and they'd be like, "You got a package, Katie," and go back to my room and put things together. And yeah, so that's what I did.
Oh, that sounds so fun. It sounds almost like being at art camp while you're
Yeah, it
there.
was kind of like being at art camp.
Yeah, and then also just the packages coming in, it's like Christmas, you know? It gives a sense of surprise and delight.
And like something to look forward to, right? Like,
Yeah.
well, I have to, I mean, honestly, sounds kind of depressing, but like, I have to stay alive because Robin's coming next Thursday.
Mm.
Ear wires are coming. Like, I have stuff to do. Like, I truly cannot give up. I cannot take a break. Like, I need to keep moving forward. And I think that's what the art did for me is like it gave me something, a reason to move forward and to keep fighting to survive.
It sounds like you were making a lot of jewelry. I'm curious, what did you end up doing with all of it?
I was making a lot of jewelry. I gave it to my nurses. Like I remember like finishing a little collection. Uh,
Mm.
like I ordered little jewelry cards and all that kind of thing. And I just laid it out on the table in my room. And then I let the nurses come in and pick them.
Oh,
And
oh, that's
so,
so generous of you. Oh my gosh.
so that's kind of how it started. And then I remember I was like mid tray. So I had this tray that was baked. But then I got the call for my transplant. I had just finished my Norwegian lesson and I was
Mhm.
about to start the clay and I got this call saying you have a heart and my first reaction was like, "Oh, this is so inconvenient because
Mhm.
I am so busy. Like I don't have time to get a new heart." Even though like that's the whole point of why I'm there. And
Yeah.
it was wonderful, but so this little batch of earrings I worked on, waited until after my transplant, and then when I was able, my mom brought them all and I finished them and gave them all to the nurses.
Oh, oh my gosh. Wow. Oh,
Yeah,
that that just gave me shivers.
it was cool.
Yeah. Question, are you still making jewelry?
I am. So right after my transplant, my brother, as a gift, paid for me to get my branding done. 'Cause I was like, "I'm gonna start a business." I mean, I know nothing about business, nothing. But I was, post-transplant, honestly, just there's so many, like, endorphins, and there's so much happening in your body and your brain after a heart transplant.
Mhm.
Really felt like I could tackle the entire world, which is, I think, the only reason why I started my business, because I had 0 fear. Like,
Mm.
I was like, "Who cares if I fail? Like, I have a second chance at life. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
Like, it does not matter. Just do it." And so I started Katie White Designs and it has grown and I'm in year 3 of the business.
Let's talk briefly about your rest and recovery. Do you feel like working with clay, making jewelry had an effect on that?
Oh, yeah, huge. So I moved into the Gift of Life transplant house after I moved out of the hospital, which is a great resource in Rochester. Like physically speaking, working with the clay was huge because once again, and my mom, dad, and husband, who are my caregivers, can attest to this. I would wake up and I'm like, I got to go get to work upstairs. I took a table in the sunroom of the Gift of Life house and set all my supplies up and left them up. And I would go up every day, work, and working with the clay was physically painful because, I'd had my chest cracked open and I was healing, but it
Mhm.
also was like forcing me to be active, which
Yes.
is huge. I mean, yeah, and anyone knows who've had surgery, you have to use those muscles even though they hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So, and also my hands were extremely shaky because of a certain medication I was on, tacrolimus.
Mm-hmm.
And using the tools to put together the earrings was really good therapy for me because it forced me to like try to control my hands, which were very shaky.
Yeah.
So it was such great therapy for me.
Yeah. It went beyond being the mental health therapy into being physical therapy, it
Yeah,
sounds like, in the end, which is
absolutely. Yeah,
fantastic.
it is fantastic. Yeah. And I started, like I gave away earrings at the Gift of Life house to women that were there and like my physical cardiac therapist. But then I started shipping earrings out for sale from the Gift of Life house.
So that's where you started really making it a business.
Yeah, I would have the beds would be lined with boxes and I would just, pack them up and ship them out. It was crazy.
Oh, it doesn't
Yeah.
sound crazy. It sounds like you're an entrepreneur. And I just have to shout out Katie White Designs is the name of your website, Katie White
Yes.
Designs. And when you get there on that landing page, the first thing you'll see are the words, "Life is short. Wear the fun earrings." Oh, it brings a tear to my eye. Life is short, but
Yes.
sometimes it's the fun earrings that keep us going. So
It is. It absolutely is.
this has been so wonderful, Katie. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Katie is just one of many who've learned and grown from the Arts at the Bedside program. The program not only offers a welcome distraction during times of uncertainty, but it also gives patients a sense of purpose and control over their environment when things are feeling very much out of control. Healing is a holistic practice. The biochemistry and surgery are important, but we can't neglect the spirit. Incorporating art is one way we can address the emotional needs of patients going through some of the toughest moments of their lives. Mayo Clinic's Humanities in Medicine program combines the humanities with world-class medical care to help patients as they continue on their healing journeys. And hopefully, they can all wear the fun earrings for the ride. Okay, that's all for this episode. But if you've got a question, a topic suggestion, or a follow-up question about this episode, you can leave us a voicemail at 507-538-6272. We might even feature your voice on the show. For more Health Matters episodes and resources, head to mayoclinic.org/Health Matters. And if you found this show helpful, please subscribe and make sure to rate and review us on your podcast app. It really does help others to find the show. Thanks for listening, and until next time, take care and stay healthy. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as medical or legal advice. Always consult with a qualified healthcare provider for any medical questions. The appearance of any guest does not imply an endorsement of them, their employer, or any entity they represent. The views and opinions are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of Mayo Clinic. Reference to any product, service, or entity does not constitute an endorsement of or recommendation by Mayo Clinic.